Welcome back to BetMeADate. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about how do you handle dating if you live in a rural community or if you live in the middle of nowhere. This can be a really, really tough thing to overcome for a lot of folks, and I'm going to talk a little bit about it. Like, subscribe, and check out more of our dating content on YouTube at BetMeADate. We release new videos every Sunday and Thursday at 6 p.m. I'm Dr. Aviva Gaskill. I'm a psychologist who's helped dozens of patients overcome dating challenges. So today I'm going to be giving you guys 6 ways to kind of help your dating if you live in the middle of nowhere, if you're in a rural community and it's really tough to date if you're single. Number 1, widen your distance and other dating parameters. So you really want to, and I know this is tricky for a lot of folks, but you really want to have a wide expanse. You also want to maybe widen the age range for the people that you date. Maybe religious parameters or perhaps even racial parameters, things like that. Maybe you haven't dated people of the same gender before. And I know that that can be really tough for a lot of people, but maybe it's something you're interested in trying, but you've kind of closed yourself off from it. Maybe you just open those things up. And again, I know that can be like a big deal to overcome, but these can be really, really important things. So I want you to consider widening your distance and your dating parameters. One thing that I saw that a few people did when I was looking into this was that, they would be interested in maybe dating someone who lived a good distance away, and they would actually go for a weekend. They would not stay at that person's house or ask to stay at that person's house because you never want to do that with someone that you just met. But they would go and stay in a hotel near the person's home, near where they were going to be going on the date. And they would stay for the whole weekend, kind of check out the community, but also, maybe go out with that person twice in that weekend, letting that person know, like, I live a good distance away. I live in a rural community. I think when you're interested and potentially invested in a relationship that much, that can be a worthwhile investment potentially to make in yourself and your dating life. You obviously also need to try and find people who are willing to date you at a long distance, potentially. So that's something really important to consider. Consider seeing someone who doesn't live close to you and sharing with them, like, the distance isn't everything, and maybe it would still be okay to date. So another thing that I think is really important is you do want to try and actively cultivate in-person activities. You don't just want to no relationship is ever really well developed, even if it's a long distance relationship, completely on the phone or completely online. You do have to see people sometimes. So you need to find ways to do some in-person activities and maybe even try some new things. If you're not a hiker, you don't have to be a hiker, but don't rule someone out because they are and you aren't. Be open to trying something new. One of the most important things that I cannot stress enough, if you live in a rural community or you are dating, kind of in the middle of nowhere, you need to make time for dating. I know that can be really difficult. Time is one of our greatest assets, and it's also something that is in great shortage these days. But you need to make time to date, especially if you're living in a rural community. And finally, and I know this is a tricky one, but you really need to consider moving if possible. If it's possible to live somewhere else, if it's possible to live, and I'm not saying move to the city all of a sudden, but if it's possible to live in a slightly less isolated place, that could be potentially important. So consider moving if you're able to. And don't forget to check us out on betmeadate.com to meet all of your dating goals. Like, subscribe, and check out more of our content on BetMeADate at YouTube.